Hello and welcome to another episode of Don't Get a Therapist Yet. And today we are talking about something that affects so many of us, often quietly, often daily, and very often behind the scenes of what people might call stress, anxiety, overthinking, or burnout. We're talking about uncertainty. So, why this topic? It's about not knowing, not being able to guarantee an outcome, not being sure whether things will work out, not knowing whether your relationship is okay, whether your child will be all right, whether your finances will stretch, whether your health scare means something serious, whether your career will stay stable, whether you're making the right choice. So, for so many people, uncertainty is really uncomfortable. For others, uncertainty feels almost unbearable. And if that is you, I want to start by saying this very, very clearly. You are not weak. You are not dramatic. You are not failing at life. Your mind is very likely trying to protect you from threat, but it has become over-focused on the things that it cannot control. So, my aim for today is to explore why uncertainty is such a problem for the human mind, how it affects men and women, what we know from UK stats about anxiety and worry, what happens to us physically, psychologically, and with our behavior when we struggle to tolerate uncertainty, and most importantly, what actually helps, drawing from a range of therapy resources which has a wide range of perspectives. So, why is uncertainty such a problem? It's because the human brain loves prediction. It loves patterns. It loves certainty. It loves the feeling that it knows what is coming next. Why? Because predictability helps us to feel safe. If your brain can predict something, it can prepare for it. If it can do this, it feels less vulnerable. And if it feels less vulnerable, your nervous system settles. But life does not work like that. Life is uncertainty by nature. Relationships change, people get ill, jobs shift, markets wobble, children struggle, plans fall apart, texts go unanswered, results take time, people disappoint us, bodies change, grief arise, new opportunities open, but they come with risk. So there is a tension at the center of being human. The mind wants certainty, but life cannot provide it. And when someone has a high intolerance of uncertainty, their brain tends to treat ambiguity as danger. So instead of saying, this is unclear, but I can cope, the mind says, this is unclear, so something therefore could go wrong, and I must think about it now. And that's where the chronic worry often begins. Intolerance of uncertainty is exactly what it sounds like, finding it really difficult to cope with the not knowing. It shows up as beliefs like, I need to know what's going to happen. If I don't prepare for every single possibility, I'll get caught out. Uncertainty means danger. If I keep thinking about it, I'll prevent something bad. Not knowing, it's unbearable. I need reassurance before I can relax. And here's the important bit. People who struggle with uncertainty are not lazy or not careless. Quite the opposite. They are often really conscientious, caring, responsible, thoughtful, high functioning, and deeply invested in getting things right. People often rely on others who take their responsibilities seriously. But that strength can get hijacked. Responsibility turns into hypervigilance. Care turns into overthinking. Preparation turns into mental exhaustion. So, how common is intolerance of uncertainty in the UK? Recent UK data shows that 22.5% of UK adults rated their anxiety as high on the previous day in July to September 2024. That is nearly 1 in 4 adults. In England, the latest adult psychiatric morbidity survey found that among adults aged 16 to 64, generalized anxiety disorder rose to 8.5% in 2023-24, up from 6.6% in 2014. And the increase was seen in both males and females. The same survey also found that 25% of 16 to 24-year-olds had a common mental health condition, showing how much distress has risen in younger adults. There is not a single official UK percentage for intolerance of uncertainty itself. It is usually studied as an underlying psychological process rather than a standalone diagnosis, but the research strongly links it to worry and anxiety disorders, especially generalized anxiety disorder. When we talk about uncertainty today, we are talking about something that is not rare at all. It is central to modern emotional life. Uncertainty affects everyone, but it can show up differently for men and women. For many women, uncertainty often lands in the middle of multiple roles: work, children, emotional labour, relationships, aging parents, health, money, pressure to cope, pressure to be kind, pressure to stay organised, and pressure to hold everything together. So uncertainty becomes, what if I drop the ball? What if I let people down? What if I can't keep this up? What if something happens to someone I love? For many men, uncertainty may be experienced through a different lens: identity, performance, work, status, financial pressure, competence, the fear of appearing weak, and the belief that you should solve it alone. So with men, uncertainty becomes, what if I fail? What if I can't provide? What if I lose control? What if I'm seen as incapable? So some men may not describe this as anxiety at all. They might call it, for example, stress or irritability, frustration, restlessness, poor sleep, or being constantly on edge. So yes, uncertainty definitely affects both men and women, but the language, the triggers, and the social expectations may differ. Why does worry feel so convincing? Worry often masquerades as problem solving. It says, I'm just thinking this through. I'm being prepared. I'm being sensible. I'm being responsible. And of course, some thinking is useful. If your boiler breaks, or your child needs a school form, or your tax return is due, practical planning does help. But worry becomes unhelpful when it shifts from solving real, current problems to trying to gain certainty about things that just no way can be fully known. The mind starts believing, if I think enough, I'll feel safe. If I rehearse every single outcome, I'll be prepared. If I keep scanning for risk, nothing bad will happen. But in practice, excessive worry does the opposite. It keeps the threat system switched on, robs you of your feeling calm and relaxed, narrows your attention, stops you from being present because it's often about future, and makes life feel like one long emotional fire drill. How does uncertainty affect our bodies? So, when uncertainty feels threatening, your nervous system can move into survival mode. You may notice muscle tension, headaches, jaw clenching, upset stomach, or IBS type symptoms, nausea, restlessness, fatigue, racing heart, sweating, difficult sleeping, waking in the night with thoughts already running, poor concentration, and feeling shaky or keyed up. The body is acting as though there is danger nearby, even when the threat is not even there or it's ambiguous, even when the danger is only a possibility, even when the problem has not happened whatsoever, not at all. But your body prepares for action again and again and again, and that is exhausting. Psychologically, intolerance of uncertainty can create a very specific inner world. You may experience overthinking, catastrophizing, mental rehearsal, constantly going over it over in your mind, constant what if thoughts, indecisiveness, second guessing, ruminating, self-doubt, reassuring seeking, fear of making the wrong decision, and difficulty relaxing even when things are calm. And very often there's a deeper fear underneath the surface worry. Not just what if something goes wrong, but what if I can't cope if it does? Or what if I'm overwhelmed? What if it says something bad about me? What if I lose control? What if I end up alone, ashamed, trapped, or helpless? So uncertainty is rarely just about the event. It is often about what the event seems to mean to that person. It is a really heavy mental load. But then, how does it affect our behavior? So uncertainty doesn't just create anxious thoughts and sensations, it shapes our behavior, and behaviors can accidentally keep the anxiety going. Common behaviors include excessive checking, Googling symptoms, repeatedly asking for reassurance, asking, are you sure? Are you really sure? Are you really, really sure? Over and over again. Or procrastination, avoidance, over preparing, making endless lists but never really feeling done, putting off decisions, staying in unhappy situations because change feels too uncertain, trying to control other people, and needed repeating certainty before acting. These behaviours can make sense in the short term. They reduce anxiety briefly, but they also teach the brain uncertainty really was dangerous. Good thing we checked. So the cycle continues. The classic cycle is this. A trigger appears. Uncertainty is activated. The mind interprets this as a threat. Worry and overthinking begin. Anxiety rises in the body. Then you start to behave in a safe way. And then there's short-term relief, but then the long-term maintenance of anxiety continues. And this is why people can look highly capable on the outside while privately feeling trapped in endless mental loops. So, what helps? CBT, or cognitive behavior therapy, is known to help with intolerance of uncertainty. It remains the strongest supported first-line psychotherapy for generalized anxiety disorder overall. CBT helps with psychoeducation, distinguishing real problem solving from hypothetical worry, testing beliefs about uncertainty, and testing the behavior. Instead of endlessly thinking about uncertainty, you gently test it. You might delay checking. You could send the email without rewriting it 12 times. Just rewrite it 11. You're making progress. You make a decision with just good enough information, not perfect, just good enough. You try to move away from reassuring behavior. You leave a question unanswered for a while. And then, when you start doing these things, you notice what happened. Did I cope? Did the fear disaster occur? Did my anxiety rise and then fall? Over time, your brain learns. I do not need certainty in order to function. A classic CBT tool is worry time. Instead of worrying all day, you postpone it to a set time. This builds psychological control and weakens worry's hold. But there are other therapies that can help too. ACT, which stands for Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, is really helpful for uncertainty because it doesn't promise certainty. It teaches you how to live well without needing certainty first. ACT says you don't have to get rid of every anxious thought before living your life. You can make room for discomfort instead of fighting every internal experience. So it's more accepting the situation rather than challenging it. A useful ACT skill is moving from the thought, this will go wrong, to I'm having the thought that this will go wrong. That little bit of space can make a very big difference. ACT also asks, what matters to me here? Because anxious minds say, don't move until you feel safe. ACT says, move into the direction of your values, even if you have uncertainty. So what is important for me right now? It could be my family. So you do things with your family, even if there's a bit of uncertainty around it. You tolerate the uncertainty. Another really good therapy is compassion-focused therapy, or CFT for short. This is especially useful if uncertainty triggers self-criticism. Many people don't just feel anxious, they attack themselves for feeling anxious. They say, I should be coping better. Why am I like this? I'm pathetic. I'm too needy. I'm weak. I should know what to do. CFT helps you to understand that your threat system is doing what it evolved to do. It's scanning for danger, but you can also strengthen other systems too. You can learn to self-soothe. You can learn to feel safer. You can feel warmer and learn compassionate regulation of your emotions. A specific skill from CFT encourages you to develop a compassionate inner voice, which might say something like this. This is hard for you because uncertainty touches my threat system. Therefore, it makes sense that that's why I'm anxious. But I can support myself through this. I don't need to bully myself into safety. Learning to be kinder to yourself. Another really good therapy is called dialectical behavioral therapy, or DBT for short. It's brilliant when uncertainty creates emotional overwhelm. DBT brings very practical skills, especially around distress tolerance, learning how to regulate your emotions, grounding techniques, reducing impulsive reactions, and wise mind decision making. If uncertainty sets you into a panic, emotional spirals, angry outbursts, desperate texting, shutting down, or frantic reassurance seeking, DBT skills can be incredibly stabilizing. One key idea is a wise mind. So this is a blend between your logical mind and your emotional mind. So you don't go for cold logic, nor you don't go for emotional flooding, but somewhere in between, something steadier, wiser. For example, I am aware that I feel scared, but I understand this is my threat system has been activated. This makes sense to me. Another really good therapy is internal family systems, or IFS for short. This could be a lovely framework for understanding uncertainty because it helps people understand that different parts of them respond differently to threat. IFS sees people as being made up of different parts, so where there can be inner conflict between several parts of one person. So one part of you might say, check again, make sure, don't risk it. Another part say, if this goes wrong, you'll fall apart. Another part may say, oh, just avoid it. IFS helps you to relate to these inner parts with curiosity and interest rather than shame. Instead of what is wrong with me, begin asking, which part of me is scared right now? And what is it trying to protect? Now, the evidence for IFS is much smaller than CBT, but it can be clinically useful, especially with people who've had strong inner conflict. And it can be very promising and meaningful to people. Another really good therapy is mindfulness, because mindfulness teaches us a very important skill: noticing uncertainty without immediately reacting to it. So you might be aware of the thought, you might notice the urge, you could notice the tension in your body, you can notice the story your mind is telling you about the uncertainty. And then it's about focus on the present moment with curiosity and without judgment. Mindfulness does not get rid of uncertainty, it changes your relationship with it. Instead of, I must solve this feeling now, mindfulness says, here is anxiety, here is uncertainty, here is the urge to predict. So, can I just breathe now, focus on my breath, and just stay here anyway? To summarize, when uncertainty appears, we can do several things. We can notice it, understand the pattern of uncertainty. You can regulate your body, really understand a helpful response, and act towards your values, what's important to you at the time, rather than fear. In simple language, this is uncertainty. My mind is asking for certainty. Just breathe. Just ground. Just soften your breath. Just ask what I need right now. And then just take one small step towards living your values, what's important to you right now. So, I'd like to give some examples on how this works in practice. These studies are fictional because obviously it's important to maintain confidentiality, but they do actually give you some examples of how it works in practice. Imagine a woman called Sarah. She sends an important email at work and gets no reply for 6 hours. Immediately her mind says, I've upset them. I've worded it badly. I'm going to look incompetent. Her body tightens. She checks her inbox repeatedly. She rewrites what she should have sent. She replays every sentence. She asks a colleague, did that sound okay? So what helps? CBT would say, what's the evidence that she has upset somebody? Is there any evidence at all? No. ACT helps her just to allow uncertainty to be there and just continue with her day. Compassion focus therapy, just ask her to be kind and gentle to herself. She's done nothing wrong. She's just activated the threat system, and perhaps do some gentle breathing. DBT might help with her emotional regulation or some grounding techniques. IFS understands the protective part is fearing rejection, and that's okay. And mindfulness might bring it back into the present moment. So that's how it all works in practice. Now I'm going to do one for a man. Again, it's imaginary one, case study. Let's call him James. He's worried about money, his partner is tense, his teenage son is struggling, and work feels really unstable. He doesn't call it anxiety. He says, I'm stressed. I can't switch off. He lies awake trying to calculate every possible future scenario. What if I lose a contract? What if we can't manage? What if I'm letting everybody down? So what helps? CBT would separate solvable problems from hypothetical problems and actually do an action plan for solvable problems. ACT helps him make room for fear without obeying it. So just acknowledge the fear is there and that's it, and that's okay. CFT encourages him to be more coachable, to actually encourage himself rather than judge himself, to believe in himself rather than criticize himself. PBT helps him to manage distress through the grounding techniques. IFS understands that part that equates uncertainty with failure, so just to allow that to happen, to notice it. Mindfulness anchors him back to the present. To summarize, you do not overcome uncertainty by finally becoming certain. It just doesn't work like that. You overcome uncertainty by learning that you can live with it. You can still make decisions, you can still act and cope, and you don't need the full certainty to do that. That is the work. Not getting rid of the unknown, but building trust in your capacity to meet life as it comes. This is often called emotional resilience or psychological flexibility, to be able to understand our thoughts and emotions and not to respond to them, not to respond to the threat system. So step back, do some breathing, and just notice it. Uncertainty is hard because the human brain is wired to seek safety through prediction. When we struggle with intolerance of uncertainty, we can start treating ambiguity as danger. That fuels overthinking, worry, reassurance, seeking, checking, avoidance, poor sleep, tension, and emotional exhaustion. And it's really high. Nearly 1 in 4 adults reported high anxiety. CBT helps you to challenge beliefs about uncertainty and reduce safety behaviors. ACT helps you just to accept the discomfort you're feeling and then carry on your life, following the meaningful life according to your values, what's important to you. CFT just helps to move away from that shame and self-criticism and develop self-soothing techniques that actually help you feel calmer and more in control. DBT helps you to regulate intense emotions and tolerate distress. IFS helps you to understand different parts of yourself and why one part is responding that way and the other part is responding that way, and sometimes there's conflict. And just to accept that and to be curious about that. Mindfulness just helps you to stay with it and not give in to every anxious thought, just to notice it and be there and just stay in the present moment. The goal is not to eliminate uncertainty. The goal is to become someone who can face it with more steadiness, more compassion, and more skill. So if today's episode resonated with you and you recognize anxiety about uncertainty, please know this. You're not alone, you're not broken, and this can certainly change and you can get better. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please show that you enjoyed it by subscribing. And if you want any more information or you want to contact me, you can get hold of me at my website, wendycastellino.com. Thank you for listening.